You're a writer when you suddenly have an idea, but you don't have anything to write on, so you keep repeating the idea to yourself so you don't lose it while you rush to find something to write on, making you appear as if you belong in a mental institution. Yeah. I wanted to bring this one up because this happened with me. This happened and it ended up spawning a short story on its own. It was in the middle of the night. I was thinking a lot, as I always do when I'm trying to sleep, because that's how I fall asleep. I just think really, really hard, and my brain eventually short circuits, and then I finally fall asleep. So yeah, I was trying to do that, and then this weird idea came to me. Inspired by a short animated film I had watched on YouTube that day. So I jump right off the bed, write it down in a notebook I have close by, and that ended up spawning a short story. That short story wasn't very good, if I'm totally honest, but it's just something that you're going to suffer through a lot, when that writing spirit begins to enter you, which is a metaphor for when you start feeling like you're supposed to be a writer. Oh boy, it was honestly really late for me when I realized just how much I liked writing. It was only very recently that I got into writing and realized that I actually liked reading. Yeah, I don't really have any thought-provoking advice when it comes to this. It's just something that happens, and it's something I relate to. I guess the best advice I can give is keep a notebook close by at all times, which is an advice I should probably take to heart myself, because I don't do it. And honestly, if you're smart enough, you probably realize that anyway. Gideon Seymour says, miscommunication as a plot device makes me angry if you just talk to each other, but no. On the one hand, I agree with this, but on the other hand, one of my co-workers rented an alpaca from a petting zoo and brought it to work because my boss said she wanted an alpaca sweater, but the guy didn't hear her say sweater and didn't want to upset her by asking why she'd want an alpaca. I don't have anything to comment on that. I think that highlights a good genre difference. Miscommunication in drama is frustrating and overused. Miscommunication in comedy is hilarious, which I agree with, if done right. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here. Just about anything, any trope, any cliche, anything, for the most part, can be done well if you do it right and it's placed in the right setting. Miscommunication is one of those things, the whole chosen one trope can be done well if you put it in the right setting and you execute it and frame it in the proper way. The evil, the embodiment of evil, or the dark overlord can be interesting if done well and set up with the right execution and framed properly. So when writing, you shouldn't necessarily say, like when writing, this is something you hear a lot of, and that is avoid cliches like the plague. No. Understand cliches. Do research on them. Try to understand why people hate these things, and ask yourself if you can somehow mitigate those things people commonly dislike about them in your work. Or, just deconstruct them. Deconstruction. Well, The Boys. The Boys is a TV show that deconstructs superheroes. Same with Invincible as well. Whether you're deconstructing or trying to reframe it or trying to execute it in a different way, do not be afraid of, of using a cliche or a trope. In the same way, you shouldn't be afraid of experimenting and doing something that is radically different, so long as it's natural. And that is honestly what's more important. Not avoiding tropes, not trying to do something different, just being natural with the way you write. It can be very obvious if you're trying to very specifically emulate a certain story style, and it can also be just as obvious if you're trying to do your hardest to do something different to the point that it's almost obnoxious.